Brianne Ligori. Thank you so much for joining us for this special summit. Damn, wish somebody would have told me that. It is such a pleasure to have you here all the way from Canada, and I'm excited to see what you're going to share with the viewers.
Thank you so much, Patty. I'm super pumped to be here with you today.
Thank you. All right, so everybody understands your brilliance, your expertise. Tell us a little bit about what you do, who you serve, and why do you think it matters?
So, I am a joy connector. So, my purpose here on this earth is to help people to connect to their inner spark. So, sort of that fire in their belly that they feel when they're doing something they love. And so, that's really important because it guides us in the direction of our purpose when we feel that fire in our belly. So the way that I do that is in really three different ways. The first way is through a book that I wrote called Claiming Your TGI Today, which is all about helping people find joy in the present moment of today instead of waiting to find it somewhere in the future. I also do some one-on-one coaching, and then I also work with organizations. This is a huge opportunity right now to help people in organizations to find more joy. Honestly, through the pandemic, people have realized they are not happy in their job. They're screaming it from the rooftops. We're seeing the great resignation. We're seeing a trend called quiet quitting, where basically people are just doing the bare minimum. So we really need to re-engage our workforce and supporting them to find their purpose and more joy at work. So I work with organizations across the world to help their teams do that. And it's a ton of fun doing it.
I love it. And just out of curiosity, as a sidebar, I hadn't heard the whole quiet quitting thing. That's really interesting. Is that just like
Mhm.
people like detaching from work in general, or what is that about?
Yeah, they're detaching. So people are feeling overworked and they're feeling like the expectations are just out of control. So people just pull back. And
Yeah.
they're actually showing videos all over about this on TikTok and Instagram. Like people are actually declaring that they're quiet quitting. So they're
Wow.
not really doing it in quiet as it might sound. People are saying, hey guys, you're not paying me to work on the weekends. You're not paying me to work during my family time, and I won't do it anymore. So it's a really interesting stand that people are taking, and
Mm.
they're finally, fed up of organizations that are all about the bottom line. They want to be cared about as human beings. And when we do support people and care about them as human beings, productivity ends up soaring. We actually see a 23% increase in profit when we have an organization full of happy people rather than disengaged people. So it is totally worth it. And it is about time that this message is really getting out there to organizations.
I love it. It's so important because it's so interesting. I remember a quote that I heard, like people, I know I experienced it too, like you're climbing up the ladder and you're like, why am I still not happy? Right? Or you're going into the different levels or the increases, or you get the stock options, and you're like, well, I feel like this has no purpose. Or I literally remember, I'm like, yes, it's Friday. And that's what you talk about. It's like you don't have to
Yeah.
wait till Friday, which I think is such a beautiful message. So anyway, I'm a big fan. The work you're doing is so important. And now more than ever, like people just recontextualizing what it means in the new workforce and people coming in and out. Like the first they were told to be squirreled away at home, and now they're telling you to come back. And you're like, wait a minute, things have changed. I mean, things
Mhm.
are never going to be the same. And so there's this like storming phase that you help people normalize how to get to a level of performance that matters to them, which I think is really, really smart as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so what do you believe? Okay, so putting our entrepreneurial hats on, because I know you have um two different businesses that you do. You're a multi-passionate entrepreneur. What do you think is a common struggle for those people that have just not gotten off the ground? Like they're committed, but they're like, why haven't I figured this out yet?
Yeah, a big one that I felt myself and I see other entrepreneurs struggling with is sort of this I guess, distraction, I would call it, to take contract work on.
Mhm.
So when I first left my organization a year and a half ago, I got approached by many different organizations to come in and do contract work in my sort of area of expertise that I did in the corporate world. They wanted me to come in and present or facilitate or whatever it might be. And those paychecks are quite nice when you're being consulted in. However, those topics were not what I was focusing on for my business. So if I were to spend all of my time and energy on these contracts, although the money is good and it's paying the bills, it's taking me away from what really matters, which is my passion and my purpose around my business. So then my business isn't growing because I'm not putting the time I need into it. So this was huge for me. I realized that really, really quickly that I couldn't be splitting myself in two different directions. I needed to be laser focused on the goal, which was my business.
Mhm.
I prepared for this. So it took me about 5 years to finally leave my corporate job once I realized I wanted to. I built my businesses on the side. I saved money on the side. So because I knew this was going to be an issue. So I at least had 6 months to a year of income so that I did not have to take on those contracts that were, quite alluring at the time, right? Like money wise, prestige wise, but it wasn't my passion. So getting really, really grounded and not saying yes to some of these things that are pulling you in the opposite direction.
I love that. That is so good. And it's so true because it can be, not only is it lucrative, but it's like it keeps you in a comfort zone. Like, oh, if things are going well, I'm still making
Yeah.
money, right? I'm still
Yes.
bringing in 5 figures a month. So it gets really comfortable. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, that thing that I wanted to do is gone way on the back burner. So I
Yeah.
agree completely. All right. So let us transition to the three, damn, wish somebody would have told me that tips. What is your first tip in no particular order?
All right. So I would say my first tip, I've been thinking about this for a while, is when you become an entrepreneur, you are going to get targeted and marketed from so many organizations out there. You'll see it on all over Facebook. Your email inbox is going to get slammed with spam. But what I've learned is that not all offers are created equal. So it's really important that we know ourselves as a person in terms of our learning style. So for me, I got really pulled into a lot of those things. I have probably 5 courses sitting there right now that I have not taken because what I've learned is that's not my learning style. I don't learn by watching videos. I learn in a one-on-one setting, and that's what I have learned about myself and that I really encourage people to know is that when you're purchasing an offer and you think it's going to help you grow your business, make sure it is aligned with your style because those courses are just going to continue to sit over in my inbox with a login that I've never actually logged in. Recently, I asked my assistant to start taking them so he can give me the updates. But
Right.
honestly, they're not going to add value to me. Where it adds value is in the one on one with you. We have such incredible conversations and I feel accountable to you. And that's what's really important to me. Some people might love online courses, others might prefer group. So it really depends on the individual. But I think knowing yourself before you're getting into any of these offers that you're going to be urged to take action on very quickly is taking a step back and just really take a breath and think about what's right for you.
Oh, I love that. As a matter of fact, this came up in the inner circle that I have. Some of the ladies were talking about how they do like that instead of giving the videos, they want the accountability of the check-ins or whatever, kind of like those
Yeah.
posts, right? Like how do you call them? Uh, I don't know, like it's a milestone or something. Like, hey, we should.
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah.
fascinating, and that was really enlightening to me. And it's really made me a better coach in recognizing around how I have to serve up the information and be very cognizant of the person on the receiving end. Because what's
Yeah.
really interesting is I find you to be a very high performer. Like if you were to say, oh, what's Brianne? I'm like, Brianne gets shit done.
Thank
Like,
you.
I'm like, I'm not kidding. She's not messing around. So isn't that interesting that if it's the videos alone, you don't do it, but you are just like making it happen all the time. So wow, it's a confirmation of things that I've just been processing as well. So this is a really, really good tip is honoring the way that you learn, the way that that mobilizes what it is that you want to do, gets you into action in an efficient way. Super tip.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. What about tip number 2?
Tip number 2 for me is about something I don't really love, and it's networking. So
Mhm.
we had this conversation the other day, and I've been thinking about it since then. I am someone that identifies as an introvert. Yes, I'm comfortable speaking and presenting in front of large groups, but I need my time and space, and I do not like small talk. It makes me really uncomfortable, as many of us, I think, right? But what I've learned is that actually the bulk of my business is coming from people I know
Yeah.
in both businesses. So I own 2 businesses,
Yeah.
and the majority is referrals or people that I already have connections with.
Mm,
And so you can only tap into your network for so long. And it's starting to get to the point for me in both businesses where it's getting maxed out.
mm.
And so through our conversation, I realized, okay, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and put myself out there and expand my circle so that I am able to bring in more revenue through really valuable connections.
Yeah, yeah, it's about being really strategic about that as well. It's like there's a way to do it where it feels right and it doesn't, it's not like randomly going to
Yes.
places and be like, hi, I'm Bria. Yeah, I could totally see how it is. It's a chore. It's a chore to have to
Yep.
network for me as well. And I'm kind of an ambivert now. I used to be an extrovert. Now I'm more a little bit of both. Like I need my alone time. But it's so funny because I'm like, oh, the thought. And it's not like I don't like people. It's just the thought of doing that whole effort, right?
Yeah.
So there's ways to do it very strategically, which we've talked about. So I'm excited for you that you're opening up that whole lane of networking as we're moving
Thank
forward. So
you.
very smart. All right, what about the last tip, tip number 3?
Tip number 3 for me is all about balancing my energy. So, when I first came into my businesses a year and a half ago, or really launched them, of course, you're coming in with so much energy and chutzpah, and you're just really what I call in the do mode. Do,
Mhm.
do, 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 do. You got your to-do list. It's huge. You're working really long hours to make things happen. And so over the past year and a half, I've realized that it's not working for me. So although I'm getting a whole bunch done, as you said, and very productive,
Mhm.
I'm feeling a little burnt out. And so I need to be able to balance my energy and what I call sort of yin and yang energy. So the yang is that do, 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 get stuff done. We feel productive. The yin is more of that relaxed, that more being state of being energy, where we're reconnecting with ourselves, who we truly are, our purpose, what matters to us. And there's lots of ways we can do that, of course, through just taking time to ourselves. For me, I've set my alarm clock 15 minutes earlier now every day, and I actually take time to have my tea, do some journaling, because
Mhm.
before I was getting up and jumping right on my Peloton,
Yeah.
and then that energy that I started my day with, that do, 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 it continued, right? Is sort of that frantic energy. So now that I've shifted things to starting with more of that being energy or more of that yin energy, it's changed so much in my day. And I'm able to tap into more of that throughout the day so that I can be much better when I am doing.
Good for you. Good for you. I love it. And I agree 1,000%. It's so interesting because I started incorporating this thing I call high leverage time. And I've talked about it on my podcast as well. And it's basically these 2 hours in the morning where they're blocked off and sacred no matter what. And it's exactly that. And since I started doing that, it's so fascinating how I work less, I make more, I'm more mentally healthy. I don't really have stress. And it's just like it's really rewarding to have that habit of having that block of time that's super sacred. And I do the same thing. So I do my mindful meditation, and then I'll do some soul journaling, I call. You just put pen to paper, and then it's even like about sitting with my husband and having coffee just to touch base. Like,
Yeah.
hey, how was your day? How was work? You know what I mean? Like, and it's so fascinating how something so simple could be so rewarding. So carve out
Yeah.
that time because you're right. It's not just about the doing. And the irony is that when you do that, when you take the time off, it actually nets you more productivity. So we're
Oh, absolutely.
right. It goes against the whole hustle, hustle, hustle mentality, which I think is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I love it. All right. So let me just recap for the viewer. First one is know your learning style. Number 2 is the importance of networking. And then number 3 is balancing your energy so you don't burn out. So, Brianne, thank you so much. I love these tips because they're really practical and extremely important. And so, share with everybody how they can connect with you, find out more about your book, which I think is so smart, and really not putting off your happiness for Fridays. and so she really teaches this very clever foundation of how to make it happen for yourself in the now. So share with the viewers.
So if you're interested in connecting with that inner spark and kind of really getting to know who you are and what you want and starting to make choices to live by that, you can grab my joy bundle. So it's brianneligori.com/joy bundle, and it will help you start really diving into that inner spark so you can create a life you love.
Love it. So right below this video, you're going to see the joy bundle that Brianne's talking about. We're also going to include the book, right? So, or that the book directly, and then your social media handles. I know you're very active on LinkedIn, and so in any and all ways that people could connect with you, as well as your website. Brianne, thank you so much for joining us for the Damn Wish Somebody Would Have Told Me That Summit and sharing your 3 tips that I'm sure people will deploy so that they can really see the benefit of it.
Thank you so much, Patty.